Hello, everyone. Take your hand off the mouse. Stop scrolling because we have gotten into just one heck of a discussion over online edits. Really, this started a couple weeks ago. I was just going to do a quick live stream to talk about mainly that an always false instruction does not disable a rung, it makes it false. And that led into a whole spill of, well, hey, how does the program scan actually work? Because we saw the light flickering. And finally, someone asked me, hey, well, how would we edit a rung? How did we end up here? Because I did kind of dive into it because really I was really just scrolling the internet and I saw someone saying that the AFI disabled a rung. And there are a few things that I really twitch on. And one of them is when you use the words false, disable, and does nothing synonymously, like they're the same thing. Because no, there are three very distinct things. So let's go roll back to a really basic program and talk through how we ended up here and how we should do a rug edit. Whoops, you don't need to see a big face of me though. Let's go, there we go, that's what we're looking for. So here was the original program, and this instruction is going to go look for a 0, examine on, and if it sees, look for a 1. If it sees 1, it'll be true, and that's going to write a 1 to local:1:o.data.0. If it doesn't, it'll write a 0. And so we press our green button, our green light comes on, we let off, and it turns off. Now we want to talk about how to do an edit while the machine is running. Now there are a lot of precautions you need to do before you ever think about doing this. But let's just say, for the sake of the same exercise that we've been doing really in the last 2 live streams, we want to change this so that the yellow light operates the green light. And we need to do this without interrupting the rest of our process. So we're going to need to do an online edit. And while you're online, there is an extra bar going across here. And if we highlight the rung, then we have this first icon, Start Pending Rung Edit. And if I click it, that's going to make 2 copies of that rung. We're going to have the one that has lowercase i's, and we're going to have the one that has lowercase r's. And mainly this rung right here is only in your PC. Your PLC has no clue that this is happening right here. This rung is what's actually in the PLC and is running. So a couple things before we even move forward with the edit. While we're doing that, if we mouse over this next icon here, it says cancel pending. I'm sorry, this one says accept, but then the next one over says cancel pending rung edit. And if we click that, that'll make it go away. Now we can also right click. Here's why I always tell the technicians to come to my class, right click what you're trying to think to do, and you'll get options. So if we right click here, also there is our start pending rung edit. We click it, we end up in the same position. We can right click it and we can cancel it. Now there are a couple other ways, and they're really difficult to show while you're not in front of me, but we can double click, and maybe you can hear the double click if I get it right near the mic. I don't know if you heard that or not, but a quick double click, that will start a rung edit, and we can use either option to cancel it. And finally, you can hit the enter key on your keyboard, because used to we didn't have a mouse way back when, and that would start a rung edit. And we can use whichever way, and we can cancel. Also notice there we can actually use Control-Shift-S, but I never remember that one. You could do that one to do it. All right, so we do need to start a rung edit though. So we're going to start a rung edit, and we want to change this one to the yellow light. Now, for some reason, all the techs that come to our class, they seem to get fixated on this one and they try to double click like crazy. You cannot edit this rung right here because this is what's running in the PLC. The one with the lowercase i's that doesn't have green, that's the one we can edit. So I can double click right here. I can hit my drop down, and the yellow light is local:1:i.data.1. And now we want to test this code. Now, I tell everybody that comes to my class, you cannot use the Finalize All button until you understand the 3 steps to get this in your PLC. Because it's going to automate the 3 steps, but we're going to have a very important thing that we need to look at. Because you notice right now, we can hit the undo button, and that's super duper important. But the next step is to accept this edit. This one right here is going to accept just this edit. This one right here will accept all pending program edits. Since I only have one rung, I can do this one, or I could do this one. Now notice when I click the accept button, these went capital. And I always joke that if you ever got an email from your boss and there's like one serious thing that they want to make sure that you recognize and it's all in caps, yeah, now it's serious. Now that edit is not only in our PC, now it is in this PC. And now we need to pay attention to the green on the screen to figure out what's going on. And if we look here, right now, the one that has the R's, which is the old rung, is green. So that is the one that's running right now. And if I press the green button, the green light comes on, just like it did at the beginning of the video. The yellow light does not work. So now we need to test it. And to test it, we're going to mouse over this one right here. It says test accepted program edits. So everything that we've gone through and we've hit the accept button for will now be tested when we do this. So we're going to hit our test button. And now we have green on the I's and the R's don't have greens. And we press our green button and it doesn't work because our new code is going to be working. We press our yellow button and now it controls the green light. All right, we're going to do this one more time because I want to make sure I stress this undo button. Is now if we look, we still have an undo button. And the undo button is very important when you're especially programming and you're unsure of yourself. But the last step, if we were going to truly make this edit, would be the assemble button. And I'm going to hit it. And what this is going to do is tidy it all up and delete the old. And watch this undo button as I do this. Notice it's grayed out now. We cannot undo once we do that final step. And that's why I want you to understand the 3 steps before you start just using the finalize button. Now this time to put it back like it was, I'm going to use the finalize button. We're going to start a rung edit here. And I'm going to change this back to and put 0, which is our green button. And I'm at the finalize button. Notice right now I got an undo button, but the moment I do this, our undo is gone. Now that finalize, it accepted, tested, and assembled all in one step. So that makes a nice automated package if you know that you want to do it and you don't want an undo button. All right, now let's go through this again and talk about how we ended up in that whole discussion the other week. So I'm going to start a rung edit, and I'm going to change this back to the yellow light. And I'm going to accept it, and I'm going to test it. And now we test it out, and our new code works. But okay, this is part of a big upgrade. You're going to have to use your imagination because I get it. This is a really simple rung. But let's say that we wanted, oops, hold on, gotta turn my do not disturb on. Pretty sorry about that. But let's say we weren't ready to fully implement this. So we need to untest this and we can do that. So we're going to go over here and we're going to untest this. And that is this button right here. When I press this, it's going to enable the old code and disable the new code. Now, in the meantime of making this upgrade, we realize that we need to install the blue light. I don't know why we would. You're using your imagination. So I need to make it where when I press the blue button, the blue light will turn on. And so we're going to go and insert a new rung. And on our favorites tab, we're going to bring a go look for a 1 down, examine on, and we're going to go find local:1:i.data.3. And let me go ahead and put a description on that by edit main operand description, and it's going to be the blue button. And now we're going to bring an output energize down, and we're going to go find local:1:o.data.3. And that is the blue light. All right, so now I need to test this code. So the first thing I have to do is I have to accept this rung. Now, first of all, notice we have multiple edits in here, so we have to be really careful about hitting the accept pending program edits because that's going to accept everything. So I'm going to hit the accept pending rung edit. That's just going to make this one rung go capitalized. But notice the test is a test accepted program edit button. So just to recap where we're at right now, we're on our old code, and we press the green button. The green light comes on. Our new code doesn't work. But now we need to test this blue light. And we go over here and we hit the test button and watch the green. When I hit the test button, it's going to start testing both of those at the same time. So now the yellow button is operating the green light. Now our blue light does work. So really the accept, test, and assemble is for an immediate edit. You need to make a decision right then whether that code works. And they're giving you the opportunity to easily back out and get to your old code. So in this case, we're going to need to do something different. And this is kind of where the whole always false started. So what a lot of people said was, instead of doing this, in fact, let me just finalize this. Actually, no, what do I want to do? That's all right, it'll be easier just to do this, clean us up. We're going to delete that. And I'm going to put this back like it was. So we're back where we started. And what they said was, instead of doing that, you should bring down a new rung. And in fact, we don't even need to bring a new rung down because we're lazy programmers. We want to do a right-click copy, and we want to right-click and paste. And we wanted to go to that. And to disable this rung, they were saying all we had to do was start a rung edit and go over. Why is my over button not working? I'm not sure why that's not working. And go over and add an always false. And this would disable the rung. And this is where the whole discussion started, that no, this doesn't disable the rung. This just makes it false. And that's why now we press the button, occasionally you see it flicker. And if we press the green button, while it seems off, occasionally, of course, it's not going to do it when you're staring at it. Well, you can go back and watch that video. Occasionally, that was coming on. But okay, now let's talk about, oops, no, I'm sorry. I got the wrong code in there for that. That was another one. Okay, but so then we talked through how we could truly disable a rung by adding a rung above and below it. So I'm gonna add a rung here, and we're just gonna copy and paste that one. Oops, well, oh, come on now. There we go. And we could use a jump and a label, and we could do that. And I could just put disable rung. And disable rung. And then we could bring a no operation down. And we did a whole live stream on this, so I'm not going to go really deep into it. But that's going to solve that light flickering issue. Now, the mistake I made during that live stream was I wasn't trying to say that this is how I would test it. I was just telling you this is how you could truly disable versus making a rung false. And so I do have to point out a few people that did bring up a couple things here. Is one, my two rungs were kind of unnecessary. What we could have done instead, in fact, let me just cut this or copy that, and let's delete that back out. And let's delete you back out. What we could have done instead is, since we wanted to disable this one, we could have started a rung edit here. We could have put the jump instruction right there, and we could have put the label instruction right here. And I gotta be honest, I gotta bounce back and forth on whether I liked this or not, but this was another way that people said you could do it, and they are right. That would disable the top rung. Now, the other thing that a lot of you said that I really want to make sure we understand why is not a grand idea is, a lot of you said this is why you like to do your own test and have it all in one, because a lot of y'all are fixated on that it's still this duplicate destructive bit. And I got to be honest, I've made two live streams in a week explaining that the AFI does make a rung false. It doesn't disable it. And a lot of you still believe it disables it, and the duplicate destructive bit causes the PLC to be erratic, and that's why Studio 5000 gives you that warning. I can't help you at this point. But the rest of you, let's talk through this and make sure we understand why there's still a pitfall in the logic of doing it all in the same rung. So we're going to back out. We're going to delete this rung again. We're going to delete that, and we'll finalize that. And that gets us back to our original rung again. And so what a lot of people said was you should have all your logic in the one rung. So in this case, we would start a rung at it, and we bring a branch down, and we come around it. And in front of our old code, you'd put something like, I'll go look for a 0 at test new code. And then we would bring an output energize down and test new code. And then we could go for a look for a 1. And this time we would look at the yellow button. And in a really simple program like this, that would work great. But let's talk through what'll happen if the rung is more complicated and why it's so important that we realize it's not just this duplicate destructive output warning. Because you notice right now, actually, is it still up? Yes, it is. So where I had those two rung warnings, notice, same as the last live stream, I had duplicate destructive bits. And that's the warning that everybody's saying that's the issue. The AFI is not the issue. But all right, let's make this rung slightly more complicated before we do this. In fact, let's see, what are we going to do? Let me get some little drink here while I think. Let's bring down a TON, and we're going to make this our green delay. And I'm going to right click it, new. And then we're going to use a go look for one examine on, and we're going to look at the green delay.dn. And we'll finalize that. Oops, well, I'll put it in a second. But yeah, we need a delay. So I'm going to put a 2000 millisecond delay. And now, whoops, just for realistic, I need to take that back out. That way we're back like we'd never had this issue. And now when I press the green button, 2 seconds later, the green light comes on. Okay, now we want to make the same edit. We want to make it where the yellow light does it. Now, what a lot of you were saying was really take all the new logic and put it in a branch with the old logic and put some test bit in there. So we're going to start a rung edit, and we're going to put that go look for a 0 that I was starting to do, and we're going to call it test new code. And then we're going to put a branch around all of that. And we're going to go look for a 1 at test new code. And then for starters, we're going to copy and paste all this because this is exactly what most of you would do. And unfortunately, I have mistakenly done. And my main change I want to make, and I get that this is a basic change, but imagine that this was a really complicated rung, because all we're doing is changing that to the yellow button. And yeah, now we have our code segmented. And most importantly, notice I have 0 warnings and 0 errors, so I should have 0 conflicts. But here's where your logic, I'll say, kind of fails you. Is since we are not testing the new code, this is going to be true. And since this is going to be false, a lot of you think we can ignore this. And you come to my class and you do it. You're trying to find the problem. You see that this is looking for a 1 and has a 0, so it's false, and you move on. But this is why it's so important that we understand that false instructions do things. Because right now, what you're going to think is when we press the green button, this timer is going to start timing, and after 2000 milliseconds, we're going to get the green light. But notice, when I press the green button, the TON does not time. And the reason the TON does not time is because a false TON does something. So this timer right here is true. And when it is true, it does set the enable and it begins timing. And then this is looking for a 1. It has a 0 because it hasn't timed. And it gets to this point right here. And this is the point that you have to worry about. Is at that point, it comes here. And then this instruction goes, looks for a 1. We can mouse over it, see it has a 0. So this is false. And what a lot of you do is you move on since it's false. But no, this went and looked for a 1 and it was false. It still moves on to the next instruction. This goes and looks for a 1 over at the yellow light, and it is false. 2 falses don't make a true. It still continues on, and when it gets to this TON, a false TON goes and writes a 0 to everything but its accumulated value. And that includes this enable bit, and this done will never happen. And you send me a lot of your code out there where you're like, hey, I'm trying to test this stuff out and I can't get it to work, and I look at it and I see this exact stuff where you get a branch and you've got a double timer. Now, again, this is why, honestly, I don't even know why that duplicate destructive bit warning is there, because duplicate destructive many things will cause you issues. And yeah, duplicate destructive TONs will. So instead of us looking at that warning and being like, oh, I know it's a red flag, don't do it, we've got to understand what's happening. That way we can find this one too. All right, let's see. What you got there, red pill matrix? 2 of the same timers, and the last one is AFI'd out. You're exactly right. And yeah, so, if the TON was on the, and okay, again, I'm telling you, use your imagination, because imagine this was a much more complicated wrong. Typically, we're going to start by copying and pasting the old code. So there could be many things in here that are duplicates. So that's mainly the mindset I'm trying to get you in, is that we've really got to think through this. Now, to answer everybody's question now is, how would I do this? Because that was that was really what the question kept coming back to, is, okay, I'm seeing all these things, but how do we do it? So let's take it back to the way it was, and we'll take that out. And I have to give semi-credit to one person because they almost had something similar. And well, no, I'm going to go ahead and do what I would do first, and then I'll do that. And so this is the code that we want to modify. I simply copy this instruction, or copy this wrong, and I go over to a blank copy of Studio 5000. And usually I will label it as, these are the edits I'm going to make at whatever time. And so I'll paste this in, and I'll have all the rungs I need right here. And then I can go and I can change this to my yellow. And I need to create this just because I probably would test the code before I ever got there. Now, when I get on site, I'm going to go online, because a lot of times there can be, sometimes there may be 6 months or more between when I get a purchase order to make a modification and actually get out there to do it. So I may not even have the right program also. But now I'm just going to right click. I'm going to copy this. I'm going to come over here and I'm going to paste this. And then I'm going to right click, and again, I'm going to do this one because, things change. And I would probably label this one now as, let's just call this my new, I would label it much better. We'll just call this my new rung though. And then I would paste in that this one as my old rung. And now I can go and I can test my code. Whoops. If I get on the right program, I can test my code. Whoops. If I finish what I was doing, now we're going to hit the delete button. And now we can test. It does work with the new code, and we can copy and paste backwards. Now, there was somebody else that had something, and honestly, I've never done it, but I can't knock them for it. And this is something a lot of people don't know that you can do, is let's get this back like it was. And we'll just finalize that so we can start fresh one more time. And now we're going to start a rung edit. And then actually we're going to double click on the wrong number. And that actually brings up this ASCII text. Whoops. This actually brings up this ASCII text editor right here. And one person said that they do control, or we can't control A. They copy this though, so we highlight it all. And we're going to copy it. And then they right click and they edit rung comment. And they put in there that I made this edit on 11/7/2023. Here is the old code. And I haven't actually tried this, so let's hope this works. And so now they could go in here and they could do their test the same way. And same deal, we can test our code now. It works. But okay, let's find out it doesn't work or somebody else comes behind us. And this is one thing I have to give them with their solution is I can come behind them at a later date and I can be like, hey, when did you start having this problem? And if they say, hey, it was on 11/7, and I look here and I'm like, huh, I wonder what that was. Well, I can start a rung at it. I can double click and I can highlight that and I can copy that and we can start a rung at it and say, I don't know, I took out this code. Didn't seem to work. I'm just throwing something out there. I would hopefully be more descriptive. And then I can highlight and copy this back into it. So we copy that. We double click on the rung. We highlight all this and hit the backspace button. We paste. And when I hit the checkbox, oh, you can't see my mouse. You can't see my finger pointing at the screen. When I hit the checkbox, watch this. Yellow button turns to the green button. And that gets us back where we are. So that would be another way. But yeah, just to recap, the whole point of this was that, and again, I can't argue anymore with some of you. Always false instructions are always false. They don't disable rungs, and it's so important that we understand the difference between disabling something being false and something doing nothing, because my jump and label truly did disable that entire rung. Now, the always false instruction did make that rung always false, and a false output energize is going to go right a 0. And finally, we have rungs that do nothing when they're false. And a move instruction, when it's true, it's going to move its source to its destination. When it's false, it does nothing. So 3 very different actions that we kind of use interchangeably as we're talking about rungs. All right, that's all I have for today. Amber and I will actually be on here in hour and a half-ish talking about, I don't know if you know, but my son Michael is on a long-term exchange. We're going to be talking about what it's like to be exchange parents at 3 months. Talk to you later.